Welcome to today's episode. I'm Lorelee, and I want to start by asking you a question. How many times have you felt like waiting for justice was just taking too long? If you've been injured or wronged and are pursuing a lawsuit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The legal system can move at a snail's pace, but life doesn't wait. The bills don't pause. The mortgage, rent, utilities, groceries, they all keep coming week after week. For so many plaintiffs, the question isn't just, how long will my case take? It's how do I get through the next month or even the next day? And when you're struggling to make ends meet, waiting months or even years for your settlement can feel like an impossible mountain to climb. That's where pre-settlement funding comes in. Unlike the legal process, which is often slow and frustrating, pre-settlement funding is designed to be fast, straightforward, and supportive. In some cases, you can receive funding in as little as 24 to 48 hours. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into how quickly you can get the financial help you need and where pre-settlement funding fits into the larger timeline of a typical legal case. We will also share real stories from people who got the support they needed right when they needed it most. So if you've been wondering, how soon can I get relief? Or can this really help me when I need it most? This episode is for you. Let's get started. Let's take a moment to talk about why the speed of pre-settlement funding matters so much to plaintiffs. When you're waiting for a settlement, you're not just waiting for money. You're waiting for peace of mind, for the ability to breathe easier, for the stability to keep moving forward. And every day that goes by without relief adds to the stress, worry, and uncertainty you're already feeling. Here's the reality many plaintiffs face. Medical bills, whether it's surgery, physical therapy, or prescription medicine, these costs add up quickly. And providers don't wait for your case to settle. Living expenses, rent, utilities, groceries, child care, these don't stop just because you're out of work or waiting on a settlement. Lost income. If your injury has left you unable to work, you are dealing with a huge financial gap, and it's not easy to fill. This financial pressure isn't just stressful, it can be devastating. I've heard stories of plaintiffs who were forced to max out their credit cards, take on high-interest payday loans, or even sell personal belongings just to get by. Some were even forced to settle their cases early, and for much less than they deserved, just so they could make ends meet. But here's the thing, you don't have to face that kind of pressure alone. Pre-settlement funding exists to fill the gap between your expenses today and your eventual settlement. And the best part, it's fast. You can get the financial relief you need in as little as 24 to 48 hours, allowing you to avoid desperate decisions and focus on what really matters, your recovery and your case. So let's talk about the timeline for pre-settlement funding and break it down step by step. Step 1, the application. The first step is applying, and at Stonewood Funding, we've made this as simple and as straightforward as possible. You can apply online or over the phone. It only takes a few minutes. You don't need to dig up financial documents, pay stubs, or credit reports. In fact, there's no credit check at all because your financial history doesn't matter. During the application, you'll provide some basic information about your case and your attorney's contact details. Once your application is submitted, the ball gets rolling quickly. Step 2, the case review. After your application, the next step is the case review. This is where Stonewood Funding works directly with your attorney to assess the strength of your case. Your attorney will share details about your claim, including what happened, the evidence supporting your case, and the potential settlement amount. The funding decision is based entirely on the merits of your case, not your credit score, income, or financial situation. This step typically takes 24 to 48 hours, and in some cases, even less. Step 3, approval and funding. Once your case is approved, the funds are released to you almost immediately. often within 24 hours. This means you can go from applying to having money in your account in as little as 1 to 2 days. Think about that for a minute. Within 2 days, you could have the money you need to pay your bills, buy groceries, or cover medical expenses. It's financial relief right when you need it most. Now, let's put this timeline into perspective by looking at the overall timeline of a typical lawsuit. Legal cases often take months or even years to resolve. Here's the general breakdown. First, there's filing the case. Before you even begin, your attorney needs time to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and prepare the necessary paperwork. This alone can take weeks or months. The discovery phase. Once the case is filed, both sides exchange information and build their arguments. This process can drag on for several months, especially if there are delays or disputes. Negotiations or the trial. Whether your case goes to trial or is settled out of court, this phase often takes the longest, sometimes up to a year or even more. For plaintiffs, this timeline can feel like forever, especially when you're struggling financially. That's why the speed of a pre-settlement funding is so crucial. While your case works its way through the legal system, you can get the financial support you need right now without waiting for the final verdict. To really understand the impact of pre-settlement funding, I want to share a couple of stories with you. Stories about people who got the help they needed right when they needed it most. These stories are real, and while their names are changed for privacy, the experiences are very much what so many plaintiffs go through every day. James' story. James worked in a warehouse, lifting and moving heavy boxes day in and day out. He prided himself on being a hard-working provider for his family. But one day, everything changed. A forklift malfunctioned on his job, tipping over and pinning James beneath it. His back injury was severe, requiring surgery, physical therapy, and months of recovery. James was unable to work, and the financial strain on his family grew unbearable. His workers' compensation claim was tied up in delays, and every week seemed to bring a new hurdle. The situation hit its lowest point when James received a shut-off notice for his electricity. Winter was settling in, and the thought of his family being without heat terrified him. His wife, who was already working overtime at her job, was doing everything she could to hold things together, but it wasn't enough. James told me it felt like I was failing as a husband and a father. I didn't see a way out. That's when James' attorney suggested he look into pre-settlement funding. He was hesitant at first, worried that it might be a loan with strings attached. But after learning that there was no credit checks, no monthly payments, and no risk if his case didn't succeed, he decided to apply. Within 48 hours, James received the cash advance he desperately needed. He was able to pay his overdue utility bill, cover groceries, and even set aside money for his ongoing physical therapy. James told me later it wasn't just about keeping the lights on. It was about giving my family a sense of stability. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. And knowing I wouldn't have to pay it back if my case didn't go through, that gave me the peace of mind to focus on my recovery and my family. When James' workers' compensation case finally settled, he did receive a fair outcome, thanks to the time and resources his attorney had to fight for justice. Lisa's story. Lisa was a nurse who dedicated her life to helping others. But one rainy day on her way home from work, she was hit by a distracted driver who ran a red light. The accident left Lisa with a fractured pelvis and traumatic brain injury that made it difficult for her to concentrate or even perform simple tasks. Her medical bills piled up quickly, from emergency surgery to months of rehabilitation. Lisa's injury meant she couldn't work, and her short-term disability benefits barely covered her basic expenses. She was fighting a strong personal injury case, but the insurance company was dragging out the settlement process, offering her low ball amounts in the hope she'd give up out of desperation. Lisa told me I felt like I was being punished twice, once for the accident and again for having to wait for justice. When Lisa found out about pre-settlement funding, she applied that same day. Within 24 hours, she had enough money to cover her rent, pay for her prescriptions, and even hire a part-time caregiver to help her at home. She told me, "The money gave me the strength to keep going. I wasn't forced to settle for less, and I was able to take care of myself without worrying about how I was going to make it through the month." With the financial stability provided by pre-settlement funding, Lisa's attorney was able to negotiate a settlement that was more than double the insurance company's initial offer. I want to end today's episode by reminding you of something incredibly important. You don't have to do this alone. The legal process can feel like an uphill battle, and the waiting can test even the strongest of us. But no matter how heavy the load feels, there is help available, and you have options. If you're in the middle of a lawsuit and you are feeling overwhelmed, take a moment to pause and remember, you are not powerless. The challenge you're facing right now is temporary. You are not alone. There are people like the team at Stonewood Funding who understand what you're going through and are here to help you. You deserve justice. Your case matters, your recovery matters, and your future matters. Pre-settlement funding isn't just about paying bills. It's about giving you the tools to reclaim your stability, your dignity, and your peace of mind. It's about allowing you to stand your ground and fight for what's fair without feeling like you have to settle for less just to survive. If you're ready to take the first step toward financial relief, here's how to get started. 1. Visit stonewoodfunding.com. The application process is quick, simple, and free. 2. Work with your attorney. Stonewood Funding will handle the details directly with your attorney, so there's no extra stress for you. And 3. Get funded quickly. Once approved, you can receive the funds in as little as 24 hours. It's that simple. 3 steps to get the help you need when you need it most. At Stonewood Funding, we believe in your fight, and we're here to give you the support you need to keep going. Whether it's covering your bills, paying medical treatment, or simply giving you the peace of mind to focus on your recovery, we are here for you. Thanks for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, or if you know of someone who might need to hear this message, please share it. Sometimes knowing there's a solution can make all the difference. Until next time, I'm Lorelee, reminding you that life doesn't wait for justice, and neither should you.